It's about the history of the estate, why it was built, what it was replacing, and then the years where things started to go wrong.
Common Ground is a virtual reality documentary set here on the Aylesbury Estate. It mixes 360 video, interaction, 3D modelling to try and tell a documentary in a new way with a new medium about social housing, but also about the effects of regeneration on communities like this.
It was a really good place to bring up a family. That's why I chose to live in this area.
I run a company with my business partner called VRCity Films. We've been going for 12 years now. We started making virtual reality at the end of 2014. The inspiration to make this really comes from my roots as a Londoner. I'm a South Londoner. And so I've always been aware of this estate, and it's always sort of fascinated me.
It was the largest housing estate in Europe when it was built, and the community is really rich and varied. There are, at its peak, 7,500 people living here.
It's quite a notorious estate. It's always portrayed as a very sort of gritty and deprived area. Now the estate is going through a regeneration process. All of the blocks that you see here are going to be knocked down and new flats are going to be built here. I hope people understand the sense of betrayal that people feel, that a lot of people here are leaseholders. That means that they bought their flats. They're not social housing tenants. But now they are being forced to move. They're being given a compulsory purchase order, a CPO. And that means that whatever the local authority or the housing association, in this case, offer them, they have to accept and they have to move on. What happens to those people that used to live here? So there was a challenge not only to understand the technology, but also how to tell a story in that new medium. In like most normal documentaries, you're able to use archive in a very traditional way. You cut to it, you use it to illustrate points that people are making. But one of the challenges we had is how do we do that in 360 when you're in an immersive environment where you can't cut to a screen of 2D material. So one of the solutions that we had for that was to use projections and a sort of projection mapping on the environment itself.
Through the various mediums we use to tell the story in VR, through 360 video and 3D environments, I think that really helped people to empathise with the residents who we interviewed and to get a real sense of what it's like to live on the estate and deal with what they're having to go through at the moment.
Maybe you're growing up around the time, the 80s and the 90s, when things started to go particularly wrong. And as it does in VR, it gives you that context, it gives you that history, whilst standing in the middle of it, being able to look around, being able to feel it, to hear from some architect in 1967 his ideas and his ambitions for it on a piece of grainy black and white footage projected on a wall like this.
In this project we use photogrammetry, and this is where we take an area of the estate, a pretty small area, mainly like a flat or a stairwell. We take thousands of photos of that space.
Going around in a very methodical grid-like pattern, capturing all the different angles, then feeding them into some software to basically build a 3D model of her room. Drop it into Unity, put the headset on, and just stand there in a flat on the Aylesbury Estate.
It's an incredibly unique experience. It's like, wow, I'm standing where it is now. I'm really feeling that. This just is incredible.
The 3D models, you can move around, you can draw on the walls. It was really important for us to use that technique to really deepen this documentary and deepen the connection of the audience with the Aylesbury Estate. Simply put, this project wouldn't have happened without CreativeXR and Digital Catapult and the Arts Council and supporting us in the way that they have.
For us, a big reason for making this film, and it seemed that CreativeXR were on the same page, was about furthering what VR documentary can be.
The real important part of it for me was the actual prototype funding that we got at the initial stage.
Actually having a bit of money to then go out and start kind of exploring ways in which we could take that story which was in our heads and start to visualise it, learning new techniques and exploring new ways of storytelling really was yeah, invaluable.
Once we went into production, CreativeXR were fully supportive, gave us structure, gave us deadlines to hit, but they did also trust us, believed in us to do what we set out to do.
The immediate plans for this piece of work, now that it's finished, it's having its world premiere in New York at the Tribeca Film Festival. When we come back from New York, we're actually doing a private view, an exhibition here on the estate at the ASC Gallery. And that was a commitment that we had made when we decided to work on the estate, that we really wanted to bring the piece back to the residents and engage with the community.
The Aylesbury isn't alone in that it's being regenerated. It isn't alone in having people served compulsory purchase orders. It is happening all over the country. So we're going to be taking the film to as many estates as we can all over the country.
We wanted to get to the communities that this might really speak to.
I think in terms of influencing change, the whole Aylesbury story is a fascinating one, and having this film so clearly documenting a major part of it when we're on the real cusp of change is going to be really, really important, and will hopefully go on to influence decision makers and urban planners in the future.